I don't think that, I don't know. I struggle with the idea of Storytime because I'm not sure that I'm that interesting. I don't know what Jerry and I are gonna talk about. Like, he and I have had so many conversations over the years. It's kind of like, I told Jerry when we were talking about it, can be no holds barred. It's weird, there's a property of Storytime that I'm like fundamentally uncomfortable with, which is talking about yourself. So I guess we'll see how it turns out. Yeah, so I'm Luke Smith. I'm the game director for Destiny 2, and I'm here at PAX to do Storytime. I don't want to say keynotes should set the tone, because that's like setting a way too high a bar, but I think at an event like PAX, the opportunity, and I think the format for Jerry and I sitting down and talking, it's about like bringing two people together to have a conversation. I think one of the things that I like so much about PAX is it mirrors so much of what I'm passionate about in games in general, which are games that bring communities together. Like Penny Arcade is a group that brings people together. Like, they're people with common interests that, you know, no matter who you see at PAX, you know that you have this like common bond. Like, you're here because you love Penny Arcade, or you're here because you love video games, and that takes and like melts away all these other like prejudices that people bring with them, you know, in the world. And I think stuff like that's amazing.
That can happen. Yeah. 1 minute. 1 minute.
I think across the different like interviews and conversations I've had over the years, you could like edit it together into, oh, here's the whole thing, but never sit down with someone and talk about the whole thing. Like, that's never, like, not in one place. It's always been almost intentionally like cut up, and you just give little bits away. So never before like sit down and talk about how it happened.
Sending Jerry out now. Have fun. Oh, perfect. Yeah.
What's going on, PAX? Are we good? All right. I'm glad to hear it. Hey, my guest today is scintillating. Ladies, gentlemen, and every possible coordinate in between, please welcome to the stage Luke Smith.
So I wasn't always a gamer. I'm the oldest of 3 children, and my parents were, you know, pretty strict with this stuff when we were kids. I mean, we didn't have a Nintendo for a long time. And it, you know, I say for a long time in the way that like kids have no concept of time, so it like felt like forever. And then again, I cut my teeth playing Nintendo games, and I remember saving lawn mowing money to buy a Sega Genesis, because I went with Sega Genesis instead of Super Nintendo, which I think I feel bad about today. But Madden ran better on the Sega Genesis, and I loved playing Madden.
You were working over at, I mean, am I correct about this? This is at 1UP, right?
I worked at 1UP for about a year.
So you had written, functionally speaking, a piece of criticism about, I think it was Halo 2.
Yeah, it was an article called Broken Halo.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things about my like journalism career that I think people forget. It was very brief. Like, I did it for a year, and like that was it. Like, I did it, well, I was at Kotaku for, you know, less than a year, and then I was at 1UP for less than a year. And when I was at Kotaku, I was like just writing from home, like playing World of Warcraft and eating Taco Bell in Michigan.
You broke it down. I mean, this was like a fucking autopsy.
I think with Halo 2, there was stuff that, you know, I was right about, and there was stuff that I was wrong about. But the first day that I started at the office, Jamie Griesemer, he said, you're that friggin' asshole who wrote the Broken Halo piece. And I was like, yeah. He's like, and we hired you? And I was like...
So when I started at Bungie in May of 2007, the job I actually started with was a job called content editor. Halo Reach was under development. They like needed someone to think about like player progression and player investment.
How have you failed as a designer?
I mean, a specific example from Halo Reach really does come to mind, where the mistuning of a particular number during the progression curve, and we weren't patching that game, and so this horrible cliff was just going to exist. Maybe I'm the only person who remembers this, but yeah, exactly. That dude is pissed.
I went on to working on a team that we called Social and Investment at the time, but I felt like after just doing all this work with my hands, I felt like doing all this work in theory land of OneNote or Word documents was really challenging, and I had an opportunity to take raids and bring raids, which were an idea and a prototype, and take them and make them real.
I understand that there's some kind of a destiny thing or whatever.
Yeah, there's a thing.
But my fantasy, yes, indeed, and you should shout. Woo. So that's 5 copies right there.
That was like, yeah, 5 solid woos. Thank you.
I think that's kind of where it all changed. Like that's where, for me, I found the thing that I was like, oh shit, this is what I'm supposed to be working on. I remember vividly playing and leading raid groups in World of Warcraft and thinking like, why can't, and I loved Halo, like why can't some freaking figure this out? Like take the feelings that you're having here and the tension of raiding, but make it fun. Like don't make it this, you know, like make it fun.
There's a lot of non-shooter designers that you bring in specifically to approach these mechanics in a different way.
Yeah, when we were forming the original raid team, this was one of the things that I did a few years ago was looking at how do we build this team like that represents all these different pieces who, you know, when they come together they're going to make something awesome, but individually they have different skills. And
you know, after as we were finishing up Vault, they came to me to ask me to take on this, you know, large expansion. We call them comets internally. And that game became the Taken King. And it's just, I mean, it's all pretty well, it's pretty obvious what happened next.
You have a tendency, and I have a similar tendency, so I respect and appreciate it, to run your goddamn mouth. And I have every intention of just juicing you.
What? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Listen. I'm on good behavior.
I think it's a mix. I'm sure that people will even get mad at me using the term outrage culture, but like outrage culture right now is a thing that you have to be attuned to, and also like simultaneously accept the fact that you're not going to make everyone happy.
So, but an example of this phenomenon, if you will, is that, I mean, I read an interview with you where you like told the interviewer that you didn't really know what the darkness was yet. And so you didn't want to investigate it. And I was like, motherfucker, I mean, that's my whole thing, and I've done very well with it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, nobody had to know. Like, what is it that compels you to tell the truth?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so...
A bunch of stuff is different when you hear it said, you hear the tone, you're like listening to the person or watching them. But I think inevitably, like, when you work on something like Destiny that is, there's such a community for and people are so passionate about it, you're inevitably going to step in it now and again. And the thing that makes me happy is that it feels like for the Destiny team in general, it's usually almost always me who steps in it, because I would rather have it be me than anyone else.
It's, you know, I think some of what you're talking about is like the version of the truth that like demystifies something.
Right.
Like, you know, and so I think that's a good example of one that, you know, you like in some part of your brain you like want to take that one back, but it's out there and you're like, okay, well, when it's time to talk about that, we'll have a plan.
I think as a listener, it does definitely sound like the dream, but it's like never anything like what I wanted. Like this was not a plan. Like the only thing I ever felt was like do something that brings joy to people. I genuinely feel like it's a privilege to get to do it at the scale that I and the Bungie team get to do it at for something like Destiny. In general, I don't and have not yet sat down to reflect on anything that I've done. I think I would be pretty horrified if I did, just because I think part of the reason why like you can do something like this and not go insane is because you're not thinking about stuff like that. I don't feel a bunch of anxiety about release or nervousness, but there is this like the word I would use is helpless, because you have to be okay with being helpless in this moment.
PAX West 2017. Will you please thank Luke Smith for coming out?
Initially, it's hard to hear you though. I know it's hard. I know like what. Okay.